2003 Mitsubishi Montero Sport. We're replacing the power lock actuator unit, which is right behind the frame of the door right here. Start by removing screws. The screw down inside the handle, screw behind the release bezel, a couple of screws over here. Then you just use a plastic tool to pop the door panel off. Freeze. From Mitsubishi, I attempted to find used components. Probably not a good idea. This is a new component, about $220. So you gotta be sure. Are you filming? Mm-hmm. Popping off the door panel, interior door panel skin. Like I say, reach in with some plastic tools, find the pins and just gently pull out, and they'll pop off. Just like that. And you want to gently lift up, taking care not to do any damage to your speakers on the inside. Move your handle bezel. Screw. I think we can take it off now. And that's how it comes off. Okay, stop a minute. Okay, depending on your internal wiring, you're going to need to possibly snip some wires, snip wire holders, nylon ties that hold wiring together to give you a little bit more room to maneuver the panel, interior panel, out of the way. And you're also going to need to unplug a couple of lights. There's a lower door light. I think this is a safety light that unplugs. Like that. And then you want to disconnect the power lock and window unit right here. This could take a second, but you've got speaker wires you need to be careful with. These won't disconnect, but there's plenty of length that will allow us to swing the door out of the way. Once the panel is off, you want to pull back the plastic vapor barrier, for lack of a better word. You'll have that door light, safety light, to pull through the plastic. Just pull it out of your way where you can get to things. And you're also going to have to, my test run, I think we have to take this off as well, so I may need to do that. there's an internal window guide right here. And it comes down and it's actually bolted in. Can't see it inside, but it comes down and it's bolted by this fastener right here. You're going to need to take this out, unscrew this, and just lift it out of the way. It's flexible. It's basically a rubber channel. You can move it up out of the way so you can get to your lock set actuator motor, which is just inside the panel here. Uh, 10 millimeter ratchet, 10 millimeter socket and a ratchet. Gets that loose. And you can see in here where this will just rock up out of the way. Just lay it up inside there, because you're going to have to get to some linkage up above it as well. All right, a couple of things you've got to take loose. This linkage bar right here runs up to this little plastic clip. I put a little dab of WD in there to soften it, to make it a little easier to pop out. So you got to disengage that. You've got to disengage the linkage arm from this green clip. Same thing, got to be very careful. Sometimes those things break. You don't want to break them, so I'll put a little dab of WD in there to loosen it up, soften it. And then inside, I'll do my best to point it out. This linkage right here, and this linkage right there, hopefully you can see that. Those all have to come loose, and you have to reach in behind the door panel to reach those two. Right there they are. There's one right up there, one kind of at the top there, and the other one is right down there. Just barely. You have to open up the plastic clip and then pull the metal stem out. It's got a little hook on it right there. It's got a little hook on it, so, but it'll come out. This one down here is almost the same way. We're going to try to take it out now. Gently lift out. Alright, we got that one out. As you can see, they swivel around, and like I say, there's a film of WD on it that helps make it loose, and it's a little easier to break free if it's got a little dab of that lubricant on it. The other ones are down inside here. Take them out. Okay, those are loose. At this point, we're going to be taking our mechanism out, which is this mechanism right here. And actually, it looks like this is the new unit. I'm not sure we looked at it earlier, but this is the new unit right here. And it's like I say, it's this guy right here. So we will remove it. All the internal linkage and everything that's in the way at this point, I believe, is out of the way and or taken loose. Obviously, you want to retain all of your fasteners, so you can reassemble. And then with that done, you have to reach in and remove. It's just a matter of carefully getting in there and basically walking it around all the internal components, getting it out of the way, but without too much effort. And then of course there's a plug right here. I guess we should have undone that earlier. Turn your light on, sweetie.
I can't right now.
Oh. Off like that right there. There's the old unit, and evidently doesn't look like it's in bad shape, but evidently the motor, gears, whatever internally are probably just not up, have either been stripped or what, because when you activate the lock either on either door panel, it won't fully lock or fully unlock. So one of the things you're going to have to do is remove these green clips from the old unit, put them on the new unit. I've replaced this one over here, so you'll have to be kind of careful with these things. Like I say, they can break easy enough, so you want to just carefully negotiate it off. I've got a little bit of WD on there, which makes it easy to move. I have to move this, it looks like. Okay. And we'll put this back on. Okay, we've temporarily just plugged it in, and we tested it by, on the driver's side, engaging the lock and unlock, and it's actuating fully, so I'm pretty confident it's going to be a good unit. So, alright, we're going to fish our unit, new unit in. Like I say, it takes just a little bit of kind of a trial and error to find its way back in. Okay, so we got it in there finally. You just have to look, and the arms are hanging up on things, so you just have to make sure you get your arms fished in there and they're, free. We'll hook those up here in a minute. At this point, we're going to bolt it to the face of the door frame here. Alright, I'm running in the 3 bolts here, and I'm going to leave them slightly loose so that there's a bit of movement in the unit here in case I need to line something up internally, and once I get it all locked together, the drive arms internally, then I'll come back out here and tighten these up. I've reattached the arm for the actual exterior handle. The actuation arm runs down to the unit to unlock, to disengage the door. So that is basically you just snap it in, and this is for the actual lock itself. We've got that bar installed, and then all you have to do is snap that over just like that. So, and that's how the other two down in there internally work as well. You probably won't be able to see me do those, but I'm fixing to put those in. Okay, I've got all of the rods connected, and then down in there there's two more. Those where the two green clips are, those are connected as well. And it may seem like that's difficult to get to, but in reality they're not that hard to get to. And like I say, if you put just a dab of WD on them, they tend to want to snap together a little easier. But you want to get that lubricant on there early and let it sit for a minute before you go to take it apart. Because like I say, sometimes this stuff gets dried out over the years and it'll break. And by the way, you should really plug in the unit before you fish it and install it into the frame out here. And before you screw it in, you need to clip that electrical plug on. And now that it's all in internally, I'm going to tighten up the 3 bolts here on the face of the frame. I'm taking care not to over tighten. I took a hairdryer, these plastic covers for probably moisture, I suppose, protection. It's quite cold where we are now, so they tend to shrink up the plastic and pull away from their glue line. So I just use the hairdryer to heat it up, spread it out, and try to get it positioned basically back where it belongs. You want to make sure you fish all your electrical lines, make sure they've come back through, and that everything is where you can see and get to it, because you're going to be bolting things back on. I've had to pull the plastic off because I failed to reconnect the glass track, internal glass track, with the 3/8 socket and ratchet. So don't, before you start closing things up, be sure to look at maybe look at all your pieces laying around, and make sure you've got everything reinstalled and you haven't left any of your tools down inside this compartment. Okay, we plugged in the passenger electronics, the locks and the window, and then we wanted to make sure that everything was clear on the window, so we tested turned the ignition over and tested the glass to make sure it traveled without any interference. So before you lock it all down, it was probably a good idea to make sure you do that, just in case you could have left something stuck in there, which would you just have to take the panel off again. So it's just a good test prior to locking everything down. All right, you also test the window. You want to test and make sure that the lock is fully locking and fully unlocking. Are you filming? Mm-hmm. Oh. And you want to bind up any wires that may create a problem if they're just loose and flopping around. I've got these speaker wires tucked away inside the electronics cavity. You want to plug in the safety light. Make sure that's plugged in, and then we'll load the panel. hang on. That's not right. Hang on to that, baby. You want to put on the bracket for the door panel because the handle grip basically out inside the cabin bolts to this, which gives it rigidity. So you want to put that on, and honestly that probably should have gone on before we hooked up the electronics. And then of course plug in, I think we got to re-plug in our safety light. So now we're going to put the panel on. Panel is popped in position. It's just maybe taking the heel of your hand and just popping it on. Once you got to get it lined up, you pop it on, and then you'll begin to put on the various there's some screws that have to be screwed back into the face of the panel. Careful not to over tighten these as well. There's several of these. Several, like I say, screws here, here, one over here, one right here, one down inside the door handle. You need to slide your bezel on, the door bezel on, and there's a little screw that holds it into place as well. We'll put that in. A little coat of, on these older cars, a little coat of Armor All really kind of gives a little extra life back to those plastic parts. And then this part right here goes on here, just snaps in basically like that. So that's your finished product.
All right, now press it again.
And here we have.
Is it recording?
Here we have locking and unlocking.